Well, I really just don't know. I hope she gets well soon. I don't know what's going on. I'm like you. I see what I see. The coughing fit was a week ago, so I assume that was pneumonia also. I mean, I would think it would have been, so something's going on. But I just hope she gets well and gets back on the trail, and we'll be seeing her at the debate.
Welcome into America Talks Live, Hour 2, where the most important content comes directly from you. We're live and interactive. J.D. Hayworth here on Newsmax TV's National Anchor Desk, inviting you to call at 1-877-NEWSMAX. That's 1-877-639-7629. Of course, we talk about stories that the alphabet networks failed to spell out to our mutual satisfaction. And obviously, we began this program with the comments of Donald Trump from earlier this morning during a telephone interview on the Fox News channel, offering his best wishes for a speedy recovery to Hillary Clinton. Now, take a look at that shocking video from yesterday. Mrs. Clinton appearing to have difficulty walking as she's being loaded into her van following an early departure from the 9/11 commemorative ceremony. Her doctor says the Democrat nominee was diagnosed with pneumonia on Friday, but that doctor's statement was not released until after Mrs. Clinton collapsed yesterday. And I will tell you, as you see that footage repeated, it's something that to this layman doesn't look like pneumonia. But on the subject of pneumonia, certainly that is plausible. We have heard Mrs. Clinton battling a persistent cough in recent days on the campaign trail. Remember?
Every time I think about Trump, I get allergic. Donald Trump does not have the temperament to be our commander-in-chief.
Get some water. Yeah.
So you see those instances on the campaign trail, but obviously it is disturbing that her physician did not talk about a diagnosis of pneumonia until following yesterday's collapse at the 9/11 Remembrance Service. For more on all of this, we're very pleased to be joined by the former chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, my old congressional colleague, Pete Hoekstra. Today, Pete is a Shulman Senior Fellow on the Investigative Project on Terrorism. He's also the author of the book, Architects of Disaster, The Destruction of Libya. And as he Skypes in from Holland, Michigan, Pete Hoekstra, we say thanks for spending your midday with us here on America Talks Live. Now look, obviously, neither one of us are physicians. We do not play that on TV. But when you saw the video of Hillary yesterday, what was your reaction?
Well, it's disturbing. You're disappointed to see any candidate get to this point in the campaign. I mean, we're 56 or 57 days out, and we know how rigorous a campaign can be, how exhausting a campaign can be. I hope that she recovers quickly. There's a lot of time to go. You've got the debates and those types of things. I wish her nothing but the best, and, spend a little bit of time, get some rest, get back on your feet, get back on the campaign trail. This is a very important election.
And personal concerns outweigh politics at every juncture in terms of just human interaction. A reminder, we want to interact with you at 1-877-NEWSMAX, 1-877-639-7629. Now, as we talk about her personal health, Mrs. Clinton's political health may have been jeopardized, quite frankly, by something she said on, I believe, Friday night. Let's look and listen to the way she described Donald Trump's supporters.
To just be grossly generalistic, you could put half of Trump's supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables. Right? The racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic, you name it.
You know, you see that video and you couple that with that shocking video where it seemed like, quite frankly, her motor skills were jeopardized yesterday being loaded into that van. And I'm sorry, Pete, I'm not trying to be in any way discourteous or call names, but you know, I get a whole vibe from this thing, kind of like what happened with Elvis. We don't want that kind of outcome, but almost as if Mrs. Clinton is in ill health, and some of the prescription choices her physicians may be making for her, she looks worn out, and her comments, candid as they were, reveal a kind of disdain for people who disagree with her that I have to believe if she were fully in control of her faculties, she wouldn't be saying stuff like that.
Well, we may have a slight difference of opinion on that. I think maybe on Friday night, she really revealed how she does feel about the rest of America. And part of that is take a look at or listen to the response from her audience. They laughed and they applauded. They agreed with her. It wasn't shock or disappointment that she would say something like that about a quarter of America. I think the other really damning part of this video and her attitudes towards Americans is later on when she says, you know, these people, they are unredeemable. There is basically saying there is nothing of value. And she's saying that for a quarter of the American people. And, you know, I saw her earlier press conference at about 5:30 on Friday where she was saying, I'm going to be the person that brings Republicans and Democrats and America together. No, the elitist in America for which Hillary Clinton stands and who she's their candidate. This is how they feel about people who don't agree with them, that, you know, they have some kind of a phobia, they are mean-spirited, and the only problem that they have is they just happen to disagree with the elites in Washington, D.C. It's shocking. I think the other thing you got going on, I think she's speaking the truth. She's speaking to her audience. And the other thing that's happening with her, she's starting to feel the pressure of this campaign. Donald Trump is closing in on the polls. The red states, a number of the battleground states, the purple states, they're now within the margin of error. They are dead heats. And Donald Trump has closed a significant gap that existed at the beginning of August. It has been wiped away. He has the momentum, and she doesn't know how to respond.
Well, let's see how our viewers respond to this very concerning story at 1-877-NEWSMAX, 1-877-639-7629. To Farmington Hills, Michigan, Thomas is first up. Thomas, welcome to America Talks Live.
Hi, JD.
Hi.
35 seconds, please, to address Islamophobia. Webster says in part that a phobia is an exaggerated, illogical, and usually inexplicable fear. Am I Islamophobic? Let's see. If salvation is by faith alone, then it follows it cannot be by any kind of works, such as the 5 pillars of Islam. So my opposition or fear, if you will, of Islam is not based simply upon the application of Islam by groups like ISIS. More broadly, it's warranted by the negative eternal consequences awaiting all believers of Islam. Consequently, although I do not hate all Muslims, I am opposed to the Muslim religion, whether in its so-called radical form or otherwise. Is that exaggerated, illogical, and inexplicable? I don't think so.
All right, Thomas, we appreciate your input. And Pete, as you mentioned earlier, and I wasn't trying to be indulgent of Mrs. Clinton, I just think for whatever reason she flipped off the filter switch and was incredibly candid. Thomas made reference to that basket of deplorables statement, which includes what? Quote, the racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic, you name it. And Pete, you maintain, and indeed we have seen the disdain for what is called flyover country between New York and Hollywood. The rest of the country somehow woefully out of step and certainly not in keeping with the political sensibilities of the Georgetown cocktail set in and around Washington, D.C.
Well, that's exactly right. And this also builds on the comment that the president made a number of years ago. You know, those of us who are, you know, clinging to our religion and to our guns. Well, I'm sorry for many of the people that she insulted in, you know, on Friday. No, we don't cling to our religion. It's the foundation for who we are and how we behave and the judgments that we make. It goes back to this whole, also builds on her theory back when her husband was president, and she talked about it takes a village to raise a child, and the village that she saw was government because parents aren't equipped to raise their children. It is a total disdain for traditional America that she and the elite stand for, and that forms the basis of her thinking, her philosophy, and what she wants to do when she becomes president.
2 minutes remain in the segment. Let's spend those moments, if we can, down in Aiken, South Carolina, with Andy, who has called in. Hi, Andy.
Hi, how you doing?
Great.
Thank you for doing this. I want to make a quick comment. I would like to have Newsmax and check into the military vote overseas to make sure they get counted. In past elections, they've been put by the wayside, so to speak, and I'd like to know what's going on with it. Nobody talks about it.
That's a very valid point. Pete, you remember our days in Congress, especially in that disputed 2000 election, the fact that those in uniform overseas were not getting their ballots. You used to run the Intelligence Committee. What does your intelligence on Capitol Hill tell you about the election this time around? Got about a minute.
Well, I think, these elections are a responsibility of the states. I'm assuming, and I don't have any direct intelligence on this, but I bet that the states are working diligently, at least those that are headed by certain secretaries of state, to make sure that our military folks do have their ballots and they will be able to cast those ballots to make sure that they count on Election Day. It's going to be a close election. For the military families out there, make sure that your sons, daughters, husbands, wives that are in the military, that are overseas, that they're calling their Secretary of State and making sure that they are getting the ballots that they need to be able to vote.
And Andy's call typifies what we try to do here on America Talks Live. If there's a subject that's important to you, it's important to us. And obviously, at Andy's behest and the behest of those who wear the uniforms of this country and put their lives on the line, we will try to follow up and make sure that our men and women in uniform are getting the ballots that they fight and defend for all of us to cast. More with Pete Hoekstra, a focus fittingly on foreign policy, plus more of your calls at 1-877-NEWSMAX when we continue.